one of Dokkan's greatest EZAs, some of the best banners we had seen yet, and one of the most anticipated dual Dokkanfests ever. Stay tuned while we uncover what just might have been Dokkan's greatest month. The month of December started with a little notice about the upcoming Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, and the interesting part here is that they said that there was going to be a campaign about the movie at a later date, which basically confirmed that Broly and Gogeta were right around the corner, so very hype. 2 days later, and they dropped the 9th Dokkan Battlefield, which came with the awakenings of the Battlefield Super Saiyan 2s. They now both led their respective class for 3 key and 90% HP attack and defense, which was very good for Dokkan Battlefield. Goku then greatly raised defense for 1 turn on Super, while Vegeta greatly raised attack for 1 turn on Super. They both had 40% attack and defense for 4 turns from the start of battle. Goku had 30% defense per attack performed up to 120%, and 30% attack per attack received up to 180%, while Vegeta had 30% defense per attack performed up to 180%, and 30% attack per attack received up to 120%. So yeah, they were both looking pretty cracked on paper. But the problem is that their base stats were very low, so in game they didn't look as good as you'd think. But were still phenomenal free-to-play units, and could easily launch 1 million plus super attacks once fully built up. The next day, and it was time for some new EZAs, but not any EZA, In Janemba's EZA. In Janemba was probably one of the strongest EZAs in Dokkan history. This guy was so ridiculously OP at the time, you guys have no idea. He went from a start of turn flat stat buff of 5000 attack and defense to 70% attack and defense, which was pretty insane with his EZA stats and guard. Then after getting hit once, he gained a 30% dodge chance for the turn, and a 40% attack buff for 4 turns, a buff that was calculated separately for a total boost of 138% attack. And just like Tech Beerus, this guy Rainbow basically had LR stats, so that 138% attack was huge. This guy was doing so much damage basically for free, and he was also insane defensively with his guard and dodge chance. Like, I still remember seeing Truth's showcase of this guy at the time, and he literally called him All Might. That really stuck with me at the time, because this guy was literally All Might. He was untouchable and did so much damage. Like, he was an absolute beast, like an absolute monster of a unit. I literally used every single one of my god stones on him for like the upcoming year or 2 until I had him rainbowed. That's just how much better he was than every other EZAs. Like, there was no point in picking up another unit if you didn't have this guy rainbowed. That's literally just how good he was. AGL Ultimate Gohan sub EZA was alright. He had a 30% chance of stunning the attack enemy for 2 turns on Super, 100% attack when his ki was 6 or more, 128% defense when above 80% HP, and performed a critical hit once only, while having 40% defense when below 80% HP. So yeah, he was alright. Definitely not better than his Dokkanfest counterparts, but could be decent in Dokkan Battlefield with his stun on Super. Physical Ultimate Gohan had the same passive as his AGL counterpart, it's just that instead of having 100% attack when his ki was 6 or more, he had 3 ki and 100% attack unconditionally. And instead of stunning on Super, he raised his attack by 50% for 6 turns. So yeah, this guy was, in my opinion, better than his AGL counterpart because of the 3 ki he had. But they were both still not as good as their Dokkanfest counterparts. So like I said earlier, really just good in Dokkan Battlefield or like the Mono SBR stages. I guess the physical one was good in Gohan's EZA, since he was physical and from the Majin Buu Saga category, but that was about it. As for In Janemba's EZA event, it was fairly easy if you had the right units. He was weak to the fusion category, which had very strong units, but most of those units were Dokkanfest, and one of the leaders was a Dokkanfest LR, so you didn't have many options. Luckily, the Neo Gods leader for the physical type was a fusion character, so you could actually brute force it with a monophysical team. Another day later, and it was time for the 27th World Tournament, which came with a new World Tournament LR. LR Yamcha and Puar introduced the Joint Forces category into the game, a category that was pretty cracked since it included every card that had 2 or more characters in it, and at the time, those were literally the best cards in the game, like straight up number 1, 2 and 3. I'm pretty sure this was the category with the most amount of LRs in the game. That category had like 15 LRs in it, and it also gave a category to Vegeta and Bulma, which was great. But Yamcha himself, unfortunately, wasn't the best. He lowered and massively lowered defense on his 12 and 18 ki respectively, then had 20,000 attack and defense when attacking with 12 ki or more, an additional 10,000 attack and defense when attacking with 18 ki or more. So yeah, at 18 ki he had 30,000 attack and defense, which even as as a flat stat buff wasn't that bad. The problem is that he had no key in his passive, and a pretty bad link set with only 2 key links, with one of them being for free play units, and the other for Dragon Ball Saga units. So yeah, you get the picture. It was very hard to get his 18 key super attack. And he also stunned himself against Fevigal's category enemies, which I guess was a funny thing. Oh, and his card art was also amazing, with the wolf in the background, which coupled with his 12k SA core, it was just so cold. Didn't realize you were in such a rush to meet your makers. that quote is cold. In Super Trunks, Awakening was pretty decent. He raised his attack and defense by 30% for 3 turns on Super, had 3 key and 80% attack and defense at the start of turn, a high chance of getting an additional 50% attack, and an additional high chance of getting an additional 50% defense. And for some reason, he had a very high 12 key multiplier of 145%. So yeah, that guy was very good for a fish play card. As for the new World Tournament reward card, Android 18 was an oddly designed card. She raised her defense by 30% for 3 turns on Super, had an unconditional 50% dodge chance, and gained 60% attack and defense for 3 turns after receiving an attack. So the 2 parts of her passive were kind of working against each other. But her outfit was pretty cool, I guess. A couple of days later, and the update 4.1.0 was out. A pretty big update. It added the Portal of Memories into the game, where you could use different keys to access old events that had returned at least once. On release, they gave everyone 30 story keys for story events, 5 development keys for the World Tournament preparation event, 30 challenge keys for Dokkan events, and 30 Z battle keys for EZAs. But from what I can remember, they barely gave us any more EZA keys the first year the update was out. So those keys were pretty scarce. But for the regular story event keys, they were pretty generous. The same week, and it was time for the Christmas campaign. It had your typical login bonus campaign, which gave a new Kid Goku and Mai Kai, Godstones, and probably the biggest bait in Dokkan history. The new banner was the first ever Double Rates banner featuring an LR. So someone did the math, and with how many LRs were unfeatured on the banner, you had a 20% chance of pulling an LR every multi on that banner. A 20% chance. Like, keep in mind that LRs were some of the best units in the game, with the actual best unit in the game literally being an LR unfeatured on the banner. So if that wasn't already enticing enough, you were given 2 Centaroshi Kais every multi. Kais that you could then use to SA 10 or 21 of those new LRs you pulled. So at the time, this banner was seen as one of the best, if not the best banner in Dokkan history. Players were pulling LRs left and right. It was just so crazy. And they knew what they were doing, because Broly and Gogeta were right around the corner. So this banner was literally this good just to bait players before the Dragon Ball Super Broly banners. But yeah, how good was this new LR? Strength LR Trunks Mai led the Time Travelers category for 4 key and 130% HP attack and defense, as well as the Super Strength type for 4 key, 100% HP attack and defense. So they had a very good leader skill for the Mono SBR stages or Dokkan Battlefield. They then had a 30% chance of turning the attacked enemy on their 12 key super, and a 50% chance of turning the attacked enemy on their 18 key super. So they were already looking pretty damn good for SBR. Then they had 70% attack at the start of turn, an additional 10% attack and defense per time travels category ally on the team, up to 70%, and 6 key and 50% dodge chance when facing a Future Saga category enemy. So yeah, on a full-time Travelers team, they were pretty good, and against a Future Saga enemy, they were even better. But if none of those conditions were met, well, then obviously they were quite bad. But yeah, they also kind of replaced In Goku Black as a leader, since they were just much better than him in shorter events, and were absolutely phenomenal in SBR. It wasn't as apparent at the time, but it became very clear as soon as the Future Saga SBR stage was out, since all of their conditions were met there. As for the Godstone, if you had at least 1 copy of all the Dokkanfests EZAs, then your only option there was to rainbow in Janemba or Tech Beers. They were just so far and away better than all of the other EZAs. Like, Strength percent 3 Vegeta was good, but didn't really need dupes, except maybe one for like the additional super, but yeah, he was just a tank. And like I already explained, didn't even need an EZA to begin with. And if you're wondering why that campaign had no missions, it's because they dropped the first part of the Dragon Ball Super movie campaign at the same time. A campaign that had missions, a new story event, and a retreat and SNS campaign. As for the new story event, it introduced 4 new free play characters from the Broly movie. The Code Goku and Vegeta were both quite good units, even as SSRs. They both were sub-leaders for the new movie heroes category. Vegeta raised his defense by 30% on super for 1 turn, while Goku raised his attack by 30% on super for 1 turn. They then both had 40% attack and defense at the start of turn. Vegeta gained an additional 2 key and 30% attack when facing a movie boss's category enemy, and Goku gained an additional 2 key and 30% 20% defense when facing a movie boss's category enemy. And bro, they just had so much drip. Vegeta also Dokkan awakened into a blue Vegeta, which had even more drip. Just look at that aura, bro. So cool. And yeah, he kept the same kit. So yeah, he just now had more stats and was definitely a good free play unit even before his EZA. In Broly was a sub leader for the movie bosses category. He stacked attack on super, had 30% attack and defense at the start of turn, and an additional 20% attack and defense at the start of each turn, up to 40%. So yeah, he looked pretty fine. I just didn't really like that stacking part of his passive. It reminded me too much of In Goku Black's passive, but what was really scary about this guy was the fact that he was just named Broly. So we were speculating that maybe the new Broly was just going to have the same name as Z Broly. But at least on the bright side, since they share the same name, LR Strength Broly was now farmable thanks to this guy. Physical Frieza was a sub-leader for the Transformation Boost category. Raised Extreme Class Allies attack by 20% for one turn on super, had 20% damage reduction at the start of turn, gained 15% defense per attack received up to 45%, and gave movie bosses category allies 1 key and 20% attack and defense. So this guy was looking phenomenal. And we could pretty much already tell that his Dokkan Awakening was going to be insane. Also, his super attack animation was just so amazing. Like, just look at that. So yeah, all of those free play units just confirmed that we are probably going to get some sort of dual Dokkanfest at the end of the year, featuring a new movie heroes category leader and a new movie bosses category leader. The missions were pretty bare bones, and that's probably because a part of the rewards went into the retweet campaign, which gave 10 stones and a decent amount of potential orbs. They also updated the rank up missions. They made the rewards up to rank 200 better and added more missions up to rank 500, which in total give you 120 stones, a decent amount of stones you could grind up for the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie banners. And they also announced LR Trunks legendary campaign, but this time around you had to have him up fully rainbowed in SA20 before the beginning of the campaign to get a part of the rewards, something that I personally disliked since I basically always waited for the category boost to start farming those LRs, but I guess it was only fair for those mad lads who were willing to farm these LRs before the category boost. It was also around this time that we got the V-Jump leaks for the upcoming Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, pretty much confirming a new Gogeta Blue and full power Broly. The interesting part about those leaks is that the Gogeta Blue they showed wasn't the same we got in game. So for years on end, people were speculating that a new standalone LR Gogeta Blue was coming at some point. Well, we know now that that never happened and will probably never happen. I think the next version of Gogeta Blue we're going to get is probably just going to feature the tag mechanic, and yeah, it's for sure going to be a must summon. The next week, and it was time for the New Year's campaign. It had your typical login bonus campaigns, missions that were actually pretty good this time around. They gave us new keys for the Portal of Memory and the legendary campaign of LR Trunks. So a pretty dry campaign, but we already knew why. It's because Broly and Gogeta were coming very soon with their own campaign. I still remember seeing those teasers in game. It was just something, bro. Like, bro, the teaser of Gogeta just looked so crisp. The hype was just through the roof. It was something else, bro. It was something else. The next day, and it was time. The second part of the Broly movie campaign, featuring the dual Dokkanfest of, guess what? A transforming Super Gogeta and a transforming Super Saiyan Broly. They were both the first units ever to lead 2 categories, which was not only amazing, but also insanely hype at the time. Super Saiyan Gogeta was the first proper leader for the movie heroes category, leading it for 3 key, 170% attack and 150% HP and defense, a leader skill buff we hadn't seen yet, and at the same time also led the fusion category for 3 key, 170% attack and 130% HP and defense. The new movie heroes category featured all of the movie's protagonists, so a pretty decent category that was only going to get better with time, since I remember that there were already rumors at the time that there was going to be another movie after Dragon Ball Super Broly, which only made sense with like how successful the Broly movie was. But yeah, there were some overlaps between the 2 categories, since they both featured all of the Gogetas in the game, but other than that, Gogeta had one, if not the best leader skill in the game. Like, it was a pretty strong team. He then greatly raised attack for 1 turn on super, had a 100% attack and defense, 30% dodge chance, and was effective against all types. So he was already amazing in base. Like, he literally gapped most TORs in the game at the time before he even transformed. And the cool thing is that he had one of the best transforming condition we had seen yet. It was just turn 5. Like, no BS HP condition like in Goku Black or RNG transformation like Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta, just turn 5. And oh boy, was the transformation insane. Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta greatly raised his attack for 3 turns on super, had 130% attack and defense, 50% dodge, and guaranteed crits. Like, bro, what? Transform this guy was just straight up the best TR in the game, and it wasn't even close. Guaranteed crit was just something so insane to see on a unit back then. Like, not a single boss could survive this guy's transforming turn. Once Gogeta was out, all you could see was the KO screen. Like, it was just so insane. I'm pretty sure that the highest IP rotation in the game was now this guy linked with Tech Vegito Blue. But yeah, with his link set and dodge chance, this guy was now arguably a better leader than Physical Gogeta for the SBR fusion stage. Like, he didn't turn that stage into a joke, but definitely made it easier for sure. Fun fact, but this Gogeta was the first unit ever to be able to dodge, crit, and launch an additional super at 55%. So as a free-to-play player, this guy was definitely a must summon. Physical Super Saiyan Broly had the same leader skill buffs as Gogeta, but instead of leading the movie heroes category, he led the movie bosses category, and instead of the fusion category, led the full power category. So arguably a better leader skill than Gogeta, since the movie bosses category had some of the best extreme class units in the game, like Agel Turles and the almighty Janemba, while the full power category had the literal best unit in the game, being LR Goku and Frieza. So yeah, that leader skill was just absolutely insane. But yeah, Broly had an AoE super attack and greatly raised his attack for 1 turn on super, while having 6 key, 130% attack, and 100% defense at the start of turn. So at first glance, with the unconditional 6 key and AoE super, it looked like this guy was the new World Tournament King. But unfortunately, he didn't do enough damage with 1 super to clear the field against some World Tournament enemies, so LR Strength Broly kept his crown as the World Tournament King. And they had different names anyways, so you could run LR Strength Broly on this guy's team, making it the new best World Tournament team in the game. But yeah, Broly in base was pretty good in SBR with that AoE super. You just had to be careful because from what I can remember, this guy couldn't take anything in SBR. It was just like so squishy. Like 1 super and it was pretty much over. But yeah, he transformed into his full power state on turn 4. So 1 less turn than Gogeta. Full power Super Saiyan Broly was pretty cracked. He massively lowered defense on super, had 8 key, 188% attack, and 120% defense at the start of turn. So some pretty insane start of turn buffs. And launched an additional attack that had a 50% chance of becoming a super attack. So yeah, this guy was doing so much damage transform, it was crazy. But unlike Gogeta, you needed a dupe in him, because without it, he couldn't crit. And crits made a pretty big difference in the amount of damage he could do. But honestly, what I liked so much about this guy was his team. You could just have 2 rotations with the Brolys, like one where he's linked with Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta, whom he shared 4 links with, and another one with another Broly, like the new Wrathful Broly, and just have your 3 floaters be support type units. My personal variation of that team was to run 1 Broly as your leader, and an Agel Turles as your friend, or the other way around. So you could have 2 Turleses as floaters, giving you 3 key and 40% attack for 2 rotations out of 3. It was such a fun team to use. These new guys also came with some new banner units. Tech God Goku was just amazing. One of the best banner units in Dokkan history. He had a very decent leader skill for a regular SSR. Like 3 key, 100% HP attack and defense, so the super tech type was nothing to laugh at. It was amazing in Battlefield and definitely viable in the super tech SBR stage. Then he sealed on super, had 3 key and 100% attack and defense at the start of turn, was a rainbow orb changer, gained an additional 7% attack for rainbow key spheres obtained, and had 77% damage reduction against a movie bosses category enemy. So this guy was pretty much invincible against movie bosses category enemies, which combined with his utility made him so useful in so many EZAs, and also a very decent SBR unit. This guy was just so valuable. Strength Super Saiyan God Vegeta, the car we were the most looking for, was unfortunately not as good. He had a decent leader skill like God Goku, greatly stacked attack on super, which was nice, had 3 key and 100% attack and defense at the start of turn, but that's where it gets bad. He had a high chance of guarding all attacks, and a high chance of stunning the attacked enemy if he was from the movie bosses category. Like his first part of his passive was a coin flip, and I've personally never seen the second part of his passive in action, since I'm pretty sure the SBR stages you could bring him on didn't have movie bosses category enemies. And in that time, the only movie bosses category Battlefield boss was Cooler, and Cooler couldn't be stunned. So yeah, that guy most of the time only had 3 key and 100% attack and defense at the start of turn. Like that was his passive. Unlike Goku, who always created rainbow key spheres, something that was so much more valuable than a high chance to guard, like he was definitely still good for a banner unit, just worse than God Goku when it should have been the other way around. Since this was the first version of God Vegeta we had, and maybe ever will. Like to this day, this is still the only version of God Vegeta we have in game. While God Goku already had so many different units, and only got more of them as years went on. I guess we did get Transforming Vegeta a couple of months after him, but are we really going to count that since it's basically a Super Saiyan Vegeta, and he's only in his God form for like 1 turn? In Broly and Paragus were very good as a unit. They had a decent leader skill for Battlefield and SBR, lowered attack on Super, gave Pure Saiyans and Joint Forces category allies 2 key and 35% attack in defense, as well as 130% attack to themselves when facing a Pure Saiyan category enemy. But the problem was that they couldn't be run on their physical Broly's leader skill. No idea what they were thinking, since they would have made his team so much better and so much more fun. Like this was, in my opinion, a pretty big fumble at the time. And the crazy part is that they still have the exact same 2 categories today, as they did on release. Why are they not in the movie bosses category? It just makes no sense. Because let's not forget that the free-to-play Frieza is on the movie bosses category. How is Frieza, who basically did nothing more than piss off Broly during the movie, and then just got absolutely bodied by him, is on the category, while Broly and Paragus, the literal antagonists of the movie, are not on it? Makes absolutely no sense. Like, bro, if Broly is on movie bosses, Paragus should be on it. Like, it just makes no sense. They should even have the revenge category. Since wasn't this the whole point of Broly's backstory? To get revenge on Prince Vegeta for exiling them? Like, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. AGL Wrathful Broly was pretty decent, but the thing is that he got an EZA the next day, so we'll cover him in a second. As for the new awakenings, Blue Goku was just the counterpart of Blue Vegeta, but we'll talk about him more in a second, since they got their EZA the very next day too. In Broly awakened into a Super Saiyan Broly, and honestly wasn't much better. He just got more stats, but his base kit wasn't that enticing to start with. So out of all the new free-to-play units, he was definitely the weakest one. But the cool thing is that we could use him as essay fodder for the new Broly. So the new Broly had a farmable super attack, which was very nice, especially if you're a new player. Physical Frieza awakened into a Golden Frieza, and was so much better than Broly. The guy was absolutely amazing. His base kit was already very good, so now that all of his stats were buffed, it just made this guy an absolute must on any teams he could be run on. He was an amazing tank and support. One of the very few free-to-play units that was actually good in SBR. He could tank hits there once fully built up, something that not many units could at the time. Now as for the big banners, they honestly were pretty cracked. Gogeta's banner featured the new God Goku and Vegeta, Text percent for Gogeta, Physicals percent 3 Gotenks, in Super Gogeta, and AGLs percent 3 Goku, meaning that all of the featured characters were on his team. So if you're a new player, you could just summon on his banner and get all of the units you needed to build a top tier fusion or movie heroes team. Broly's banner featured the new Paragus and Wrathful Broly, as well as Physical Omega Shenron, Text percent 3 Broly, Strength Janemba, and Strength Dokkanfests Broly. So actually a worse banner than Gogeta. Text percent 3 Broly was complete garbage, Strength Janemba was still good but just got replaced by In Janemba, Strength Broly was alright I guess, but complete fodder if you had LR Strength Broly, so yeah, I guess still a decent banner if you're a new player, but not that good if you had been playing for some time. Honestly, both banners were not that great for veterans. I remember having most of the featured units on both banners, when I literally started the game during the 3rd year anniversary of that year, so yeah. The next day and Wrathful Broly's EZA was out, which also came with the sub-EZAs of the free-to-play Blue Goku and Vegeta. His EZA was actually pretty good. He led the Pure Saiyans category for Tricky, 120% HP attack and defense, as well as the Extreme AGL type for Tricky and 100% HP attack and defense. So an insanely good leader skill for a regular banner unit. Like this was just so good at the time. Then he raised his attack and defense by 30% for 3 turns on Super, had 1 key at the start of every turn, infinitely, the first unit to do so, 70% attack and defense, plus an additional 20% defense per attack performed, up to 80%, and an additional 20% attack per attack received, up to 80%. 2 buffs that were actually calculated separately. So fully built up, that guy had 206% attack and defense, which was just insane, especially with his easiest stats. Like he had the same stats as like a Dokkanfests TUR post EZA. So yeah, on release, that guy was just a beast. But I just don't understand why they EZA'd him so early. Like, this pretty much killed that unit forever. Like, this was the best he ever was, and the best he'll ever be. As for the Blue Goku and Vegeta, they were pretty much the best free-to-play TURs in the game post-EZA. They both led the movie heroes category for Tricky and 77% HP attack and defense, which was definitely not bad for free-to-play units. Then Goku greatly raised his attack on Super for 1 turn, while Vegeta greatly raised his defense on Super for 1 turn. They both had 77% attack and defense at the start of turn, and both gained 4 key and either 50% defense or 50% attack when facing a movie bosses category enemy, and I remember liking their super attacks so much, because they were just so simple, yet so effective. I don't know, it just activated something in my brain. And from what I can remember, Vegeta was slightly better than Goku just because he was tech and Wrathful Broly's EZA was AGL, but they were both very good in that EZA. As for the EZA event, it was basically just the Broly's raid they released like 3 months prior, but with a different type. Like they literally just reused the raid, changed the type in, and made him weak to movie heroes category units. Like this was for sure the easiest EZA in the game, since that movie heroes category just had so many good tech and AGL type units, so it just wasn't a problem at all, especially with those 2 free-to-play EZAs. I'm pretty sure this was the first EZA in the game that had the stage 999 beaten. Broly got so brutalized now that I think about it. Like they just kept on releasing more crazy tech type movie heroes units over the years. And to the surprise of no one, the game got top grossing the same day. So they gave everyone 30 stones and 2000 AGL and physical types type's potential orbs. It was also time for Trunks' legendary campaign. As you can see, you had to have him awakened and SA level 10 before the start of the campaign to get the full rewards. The campaign only gave you 20 stones, 7 Elder Kais, and the potential orbs. The remaining 10 stones and 3 Elder Kais were given out to the players who had him ready beforehand. Then it had all of the other legendary campaign stuff, but you know them by now. 3 days later, and the game got top grossing again. Broly and Gogeta were just that hype, so they gave everyone 100 Dragon Stones and 3108 potential orbs of each type. Some pretty insane top grossing rewards. I just miss those days when banners would hit top grossing multiple times within a celebration. This just doesn't happen anymore for some reason. I think that it's because of the stone sales. Like back then during those big celebrations you had some decent discounts, like $5 for 50 stones. I don't even remember the last time I saw that deal. Stones are just so damn expensive today. The year ended with another message from the devs, just like the previous year, thanking the players for all the support the game got that year, and teased some crazy sales, as well as a special banner to celebrate the new year. A banner that was actually teased by Dokkaner that same day. He said in a tweet that in his opinion, this was the best banner in Dokkan history, and he was right. The banner dropped later that day, and it was the first ever step up summon banner. This banner was just so insane that it literally made so many players buy stones for the first time. It had 5 steps, each giving out a different set of characters. The first step was 20 stones and gave you a guaranteed Dokkanfest character who could be EZA'd. The second step was 40 stones and gave you a guaranteed Spur class Neogods leader. The third step was also 40 stones and gave you a guaranteed Extreme class Neogods leader. The fourth step was 50 stones and gave you a guaranteed category leader, with the most recent one on the banner being MVP 17. And the final step gave you a guaranteed summonable LR, one of the 10 OG LRs, who were all still very good. So in total, one rotation in that banner was 200 stones, and you could do 2 of them. So for 400 stones, you were guaranteed 2 LRs, 2 category leaders, 4 Neogods leaders, and 2 Dokkanfest EZAs. But the crazy part is that all of the Dokkanfests you could get at each step were featured on the banner, and all of the LRs you could get in the last step were unfeatured on the banner too. So you could potentially get any of them at any step if you were lucky, which was just insane. Like, this was for sure the best banner the game had known so far. This was a nasty move by Dokkan to drop that banner right after what might have just been the hypest banners in Dokkan history. Like, that's just crazy work. And thankfully I was on global, so all we got was like a shitmas celebration. So luckily I had like some stones saved up, but many players didn't. And I remember the Dokkan subreddit being flooded with people saying that this banner is what made them finally pull the plug and buy stones for the first time. Honestly, just what a way to end the year. All around, I think that even though this year was very hype, it felt somehow less hype than the year before. Not exactly sure why, but I think that it's because the community felt like more alive back in 2016, 2017. But I might be wrong on that, like I wasn't there. It's just like an observation I made from my research. So yeah, this was it for today's history video. If you want to see more Dokkan history, feel free to check out my Dokkan history series. The next episode should pop up on your screen, or you can check out the full playlist in the description down below. But until then, take care. Peace.